Hello, I'm Everton Lopes. I've had chronic kidney disease since 2016, and today I want to share a really interesting study conducted by the University of Calgary in Canada, where they followed patients with chronic kidney disease stages 3A, 3B, and 4 for 5 years. And why is this study important? Because it shows that the chance of progressing to a more advanced stage, or even to kidney failure, for example, if you are in stage 3A, the chance of moving to stage 3B or 4 within 5 years is the same as the chance of regressing to an earlier stage. For example, if you are in 3A, regressing to stage 2. If you are in stage 4, regressing to 3B, 3A, or even to stage 2. So they are similar. And what does that mean? It means that we need to focus mainly on these points of improvement, because usually people with chronic kidney disease know that they are bombarded with information only about kidney failure, about, let's say, a certain fear. Of course, we have to be very attentive to that. Why? Because really, if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't eat properly, especially according to our lab tests, there's a high chance we'll be in the group that progresses to kidney failure. But this study shows that it is possible to regress to the previous stage, and that usually doctors and professionals end up not mentioning it. Also because it can be confused with a cure. There is no cure for the disease. When you have clinical kidney disease, there is no cure. But regressing to a previous stage, yes, it is indeed feasible to do that, especially when you have a problem that hasn't yet damaged all your nephrons, all your glomeruli that perform kidney filtration in the context of kidney health. So if you have a certain inflammation, for example, and you manage to reverse it before these glomeruli are practically dead, you can improve your kidney condition. But there's another very important point in this study. For those in stage 3A, the chance of remaining in stage 3A for 5 years is 71%. If you're in stage 3B, it's 64%. And if you're in stage 4, the percentage is 60%. When we add together the chance of improving and the chance of stabilizing, these numbers increase to almost 80%. So over a period of 5 years, the chance of either remaining at the same stage or improving is about 80%. The chance of getting worse overall will only range from 14 to 20%. And why is this data important? Because we can change the course of the disease, okay? My case is a specific example of this. In 2016, I was diagnosed at stage 3A, and my disease started to get much, much worse. It progressed quickly because I have IgA nephropathy, which is already, let's say, a disease that causes chronic kidney disease, and where practically 40% of people end up with kidney failure within 10 years. So mine was advancing very quickly, and the doctors tried to stabilize it at the beginning. In my case, it wasn't possible to stabilize it, so the prognosis was very poor. The prognosis was that I would have a high chance of being in that group needing dialysis within 10 years. And in fact, that's exactly what happened at first. It started to progress, and in less than 3 years, I was already at stage 4. So stage 4 is already more than halfway there, and if I didn't take care of myself, I would move on to stage 5. What happened? I lost hope during that time, so I decided to sell everything I had. I said, I'm going to travel while I don't need dialysis. I bought a motorhome in the United States and traveled for a year through the US and Canada. And when I came back, I thought, I can't go on like this. I had a really enjoyable year, but I need to do something. So I started to study deeply how I could change. That's the course of my illness. I researched data. I looked into several countries, into medications, and I found nothing that could, let's say, give me a clue on how to suddenly change the course of the disease. Or rather, I did find one thing that made an impact, which was food, and especially medications as well. Because one thing that people with kidney disease usually know is that medications often end up affecting the kidneys. But I talked a lot with my doctors, and I would say, so taking medication is bad for my kidneys, right? And they would say yes. But if I stopped taking the medication, it would be much worse. Why? Because my kidneys would get worse much faster. So I started to study. That's when I began to study in depth, okay? I went to study integrative nutrition, and I studied for almost a year and a half. Everything I studied, I wrote down and put into practice on my own body. So I started removing things, seeing which medications I could replace with food. I started testing foods. For example, I would take a group of foods that I saw were good for the kidneys and good for a certain medication. I would test them for a month. And during that month afterwards, I would do lab tests and I would see if things improved or not. And I kept doing this for a year. After almost a year, for someone who was at stage 4, I managed to go back to stage 3A and at some points even to stage 2. Yes, it was a long battle, mainly one of learning. And I always did it together with doctors and by running tests, okay? I did it, but I never stopped taking medication or did anything that could affect my kidneys without informing my doctors afterwards. So from that point on, I even started to stop taking some medications. I used to take 8 medications because I had thrombosis. I had a lot of problems. So I took medication for thrombosis, anticoagulants, and I took medication for triglycerides, for cholesterol, for blood pressure. Out of those 8, I managed to stop taking 7. For kidney stones, I managed to stop taking 7 medications. There's one I still take, but I managed to lower the dose, which is the blood pressure medication. That one I couldn't stop taking, so I still continue with it. As I said, I always did this with medical supervision and most importantly, with guidance from lab results. So it was the lab results that would tell me whether I could stop the medication or not, whether I was improving or not. And the coolest thing about all this is that today, since I changed my whole diet, it's been 5 years now. So 5 years that I've kept my condition stable. For sure, that 10-year prognosis of needing dialysis no longer applies to me at this point. Of course, I still follow a certain way of eating, but as I say, I don't diet. Now and always, I've eaten very well. I ended up losing 35 kilos during this time. Let's put it that way, but without dieting. What I did was eat the foods that were appropriate for my situation. So I changed my habits. I ate foods that I didn't used to eat before, and according to my lab tests. And for those who know my story, you know that today my purpose is that I created an app, actually Metasano, where let's say the big difference is that it's tailored for each person according to their lab tests, their medication, the diseases, the comorbidities you have, because usually people with kidney disease have other comorbidities, especially diabetes and high blood pressure. So there are foods that are good for one thing and bad for another. So we created an entire structure, my whole team, and I built a very important system that gives you the ideal ingredients to eat based on this information for the app. So if you want to learn a bit, of course, if you want to get to know Metasano a little, go ahead, look it up. It's called Metasano. Search for it on the internet. You can download it. It's free for 7 days, so you can try it out. You'll be able to get your ingredients. And after 7 days, if you want to keep using it, the price is very low, which also helps us improve the app. The app today has several other features. You can take a picture of your food and see how you're eating according to the ingredients that were, let's say, prescribed for you by the app. This is interesting. We recommend maintaining a rate of 50% of healthy eating. Let's put it that way. The rate, when you take the photo, shows how much your food matches the ingredients that were prescribed for you. Whenever you eat 50% or more, that's already a very good indicator for your improvement, especially regarding kidney disease. And I can assure you that it also impacts other comorbidities you may have, as was my case. I improved my heart health, all my lab results got better, and I no longer had thrombosis. So it's extremely important. We're working on new features, mainly to help with this issue, which is what I managed to do for myself, like stopping medication, and soon this will also be available. You have a really cool feature. When you go to the dashboard, which lets you track how your kidney disease is doing, whether it's getting worse or improving over time. Why is this important? Because it will show how your condition is progressing, or even if your kidney disease is regressing. So on the dashboard, you can enter all your test results, your glomerular filtration rates that you've had throughout your life. And our tool gives you an insight. If you're within the normal range, if you By normal, I mean that it's normal for kidney function to decline a bit over time. So we do all this analysis and it's really interesting, okay? So go ahead, search on the internet or go to the website www.metasano.com where you can download the app, okay? Because yes, it is possible to stabilize or even reverse kidney disease, okay? Just a note. This test was done over 5 years. Of course, you need to do a test over a longer period. For example, in my case, I've had the disease for 10 years now. In the 5 years since I made changes, I was also able to remain stable. So it's important to keep monitoring after that period. And this study only took into account the glomerular filtration rate. We know that the glomerular filtration rate is like a snapshot of how your kidneys are functioning at that moment. But it's also important to look at other indicators, especially things like protein in the urine, for example, the creatinine or albumin levels, because they are important indicators to show whether your kidneys are getting worse or not over time. So the glomerular filtration rate gives you a snapshot at that moment. Measuring protein, measuring the levels of creatinine and albumin will give you a projection of how your kidneys will be over time, okay? They are extremely important. So I invite you once again, download Medicine and try it out 7 days free. And after that, the fee is really low because our purpose is to help more people, just like I was able to do in my own case. Well, I'll see you in the next video.